Hello, welcome to How to Play Crag, a game for 2 to 8 players. Now, in this dice game, all you're going to need is 3 dice and a score sheet and something to write with. This game is similar to Yahtzee, with the exception of you only get one reroll, which happens here. Now we see that player 1 has rolled 2 2s and a 6. He marks it down in the 2 columns as 4. A Crag in this game is known as any 13 that has a double in it. If it does not have a double, it can score 26 points under the 13 score line there. So play continues like this, with one dice rolled and are re-rolled until something of value can be scored. There are also an odd straight, which features a 1, 3, and a 5, or an even straight, which was just rolled there as a 2, 4, 6. There's also a long straight a low straight of 1, 2, 3, and a high straight of 4, 5, 6. There's a 3 of a kind space if you manage to get 3 dice of the same type. And you have the 13, which is any 13, which can be a Crag if you've already scored a Crag, or just any 13 without a double in it. And, well, that player messed up there. He had a 13 and didn't use it. Oh, well, that's why he didn't use it, because he's already used it already. So make sure you score in the appropriate scoring column. Other than that, this game is a very easy game to learn, but it's a little bit more difficult than Yahtzee in what dice to keep and what dice to re-roll, and whether or not you should re-roll. You don't have the ability to score a lot of categories, so eventually you start zeroing out things. In that case, we saw player 1 zero out the ones early on because he wanted to save the more point scoring categories for later. That's what makes this game tougher than your standard Yahtzee. Looks like we got the low straight here for player 1. He marks that down. Being very careful with which straights you get and which straights you don't get is critical in Crag. They are worth 20 points each, and you're wanting to try to get those before you score your upper section. There's no upper section bonus in Crag, unlike Yahtzee. So therefore, you're really wanting to be careful with what you're trying to roll. And this game will be a lot more luck than Yahtzee itself, which is probably one of the reasons it does not get played all that often. And if you did see our video on Push Your Luck, this game can be played at playdicegamesonline.com. So we scored a 12, that does us no good, so player 2 will zero out his ones as well. Now other straights like this 2, 3, 4 score nothing in this game. So the decision making is somewhat difficult. So we took a 5 on the 5s. So one of the things I love about dice games like this is the nature of roll and writes. It makes it very free. Now there we go. There's a Crag that's been scored. Unfortunately, of course, it knocked into the other dice, but it would have been a Crag either way, so we'll just count that. And that was 2 5s and a 3 that scored a 13, but it had a double involved in it, so therefore it's a Crag. We managed not to get a 3 of a kind in this game, I don't think. But your game, of course, will be different. But roll and writes essentially are some of the cheapest games to produce. Some of the easiest to introduce players to. Not a whole lot of rules to understand or have to worry about. And it's just fun to drink and have a game like this at a bar. This is mainly a pub game for the most part. Most of its history, that's what it was known as. You don't see it much today because Yahtzee, as you can see, is somewhat superior with the 2 re-rolls as opposed to just a single re-roll. And a lot more scoring categories and a lot more possibilities. But this game has a long history, and it's definitely worth a look. If you love dice games like Yahtzee, this is one to consider. And I still have a whole lot more from Reiner Knezia's book on dice games properly explained that I'll have to do in the future. So we're definitely not done with dice games yet. Interestingly enough, if that other 6 would have been carried, we would have had another Crag, but of course that would have been ineligible because that was player 1's roll. And the final roll does not get us anywhere. So that scores a 0 on the Crag. Then we go ahead and do our totals, and we see that player 1 is 1. And like always, if you enjoy these game videos, do hit the subscribe button. I have a whole lot more coming out. If you want to actually meet up people in public and play games like Crag or Yahtzee or whatever else, any of the card games featured on this channel or any other channels, come to the Reddit subpage, our card game meetups. Post your city, post what games you know, and where you'd like to play, and hopefully somebody in your city at some time in the near future will say, yeah, I want to play card games too. And I'll see you